As far as content status stating delivered, is there any updates to actually show when your content has been delivered to that specific channel, when it's live on that specific channel?
So the delivered means it's been delivered, right? So that does mean it's delivered. As far as when it goes live on the specific channels, unfortunately, streaming channels do not report back when titles go live. And I know this is a big complaint of filmmakers, and that's something, unfortunately, there's that we don't even get data on, right? So like we don't see it until we begin getting reports, which is, guess what? When you begin seeing it, that it's actually monetizing. And so that's unfortunately something that we wish would change. We've tried to push streaming services on this. But ultimately it's unfortunately something that's out of our control. But it is something that we are aware is an issue, but also you have to realize like a lot of streaming channels are also hard to tell if it's live because guess what? Like they're apps, right? They're on a Roku channel, they're on a Fire TV. Like there's no URL that you can get to click into something on, Tubi on a Roku app, right? Like it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Like, yes, you can on the web, but if for XYZ, streaming service that only has a Fire TV app, you can't get direct URLs. It's like that doesn't happen. And so this is, unfortunately part of the game. But guess what? This even proves even more so why it's important that you're on every streaming service possible, because discovery is all about just being able to be selected on services. So if you're not on every single streaming service, you're missing out on opportunity.
Media DW Production asked, can we update key art once a film is on different channels, once it's live?
Yes, you can. We do have an extra fee for redelivering and reQCing those titles, just because it takes it's effort out of our time. We really it's also like we generally recommend putting top artwork at the beginning. It's also the streaming channels, they generally don't exactly like when you come back to them 2 months later saying, oh, we want to change the key art. It's like it's not a great practice, but we do support it when needed.
Yeah, I can. They've done this for me a few times, and every time I'm like, oh gosh, I should have got it. I just put up a wrong concept, and I was like, you know what, I like the art, but the concept just wasn't right, and sometimes you have to update. And I've happily paid the fee. Now, if so if you've submitted, but let's say it hasn't been delivered anywhere yet, you're still paying a reQC fee, but you're not paying the redelivery fee to the platforms yet, right?
Correct. Yeah, because there's no deliveries that we need to go through and redo. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to make that clear. Can I release an extended version of my film that is already live, or say a director's cut, or an alternate version of that movie?
Yeah, definitely. So good question. Right now in FilmHub, we only support having one version of your film. And that's just because streaming channels get really confused. They're like, we think it's cool. It's like, oh, well, I want the director's cut, and this is like something that like is ultimately like, it's it's like, hey, I think this is the better version. It's better style. But for streaming services, they want to make sure that they can only look at one version of the platform. So always put your best foot forward, put that single version out. It makes it much easier to manage for everyone. And also don't forget, if you have multiple versions of a film out, if we were to support that on FilmHub, your revenue would be split. And so all of a sudden then, the streaming channels would say like, oh, well, actually this title doesn't do well, when maybe the sum of them is actually massive. And so it's really important, to always drive, to one version of your film.
Right. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but say you're really passionately wanted to get this director's cut out.
Yeah.
You could reQC it and swap it.
Yeah, you can swap it.
It's not optimal for the platforms, but it is possible.
Yeah, it is definitely something you can do. It is something you can do and swap out the version, and we can deliver a new edit or new cut. We have it happen frequently. Sometimes people want to fully retitle something, right? We do support those things. Ultimately, it's always the goal of getting it right, but sometimes you need to make a change, right? Sometimes you realize like, oh shit, I missed this, and it happens.
Are there any plans to change how uploading alternate dubs are handled? Uploading an identical video track twice seems like a wasted bandwidth. I'm not exactly sure what they're.
Yeah, I think I get the question.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, one of the things right now is for foreign audio, different separate foreign audio versions, you have to upload separate videos. Internationalization is something obviously on top of our mind as we think about improvements to our product. For now, that is generally the way that we're going to have to focus on. just from a simplicity standpoint. But there is some stuff that we are beginning to think about in that method. Obviously, we realize, yes, it is a waste of bandwidth, but there are some things coming that we're thinking about in that fashion. But I hear the pain. So yeah.
Also, if you did have a localized video track, would it be better to upload it like an episode of a series and share the same ID or metadata?
No, we do require that separate audio language files for videos are submitted as fully separate titles right now.
Okay. Description tracks are accessibility tools. So someone that is, this was a answer to that question earlier. So I honestly don't remember the question.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. It's discrete. Yeah. Okay. I understand the question now. This makes sense. Okay. Yes, it is something that we are thinking about. It is unfortunately just not something we're supporting at this time. Obviously, accessibility is something that's super important, as we go forward. Unfortunately, it's just like, we've got a list of things to work on. And, right now it's just not the most pressing. It is something, and I realize that this is the most pressing for some people in the world. And like, I understand that. And, we are aware of something that this is a gap and a fault that we have right now. But we will, it's something that we will actively work on in the future. Unfortunately, just have to prioritize some other things right now.
Are there any updates on how short form content is performing?
Yeah, and obviously short form content, unfortunately right now, especially with the, plethora of AVOD services that are developing, still has problems. And, from a monetization standpoint, in short form content, I'm calling at this point less than 20 minutes. Mostly AVOD platforms and meaning advertising video on demand, platforms that monetize by having ads on your video, generally require that films are over 20 minutes in length. And so with that, being over 20 minutes in length allows them to kind of, put more ads on it. It's a standard kind of like TV length, right? In the old world. Obviously there needs to be something that pushes forward. There needs to be a short form content streaming service that really works, right? And to be perfectly honest, the dear old Quibi, I think, was actually onto something. They actually had the right model. Not the right model, I would say. They were onto a good consumer insight into people wanting short form content. I think there's something there about that. But ultimately, they just, they built a technology company not in the right fashion. And I think, you can't build a company by, just throwing billions of dollars at a problem. It doesn't generally work. You need to kind of build up from, the small pieces.